get on with any Twitch questions. And of course, OBS is having a random stream issue. There we go. So, with that out of the way, thanks for coming. Just a quick note: in 2 hours, there will be an operation. Server's actually ready to go for that. I delayed this by 30 minutes just to make sure server side things were fine there. So, with all that said and done, 1 second. God damn it. All right. So, going over the talking points here. So, it's been about 45 days since we had the first town hall meeting. In that one, I just kind of aligned where everything was going. That was also pre-tax season, which is always a stressful time for myself. But that is all over and done with. And on top of that, the finally figured out what I want to do with the damn YouTube algorithm with all the channels. But especially in the past week, it's been very stressful because a few old things came to light, which I am going to keep between my moderators and myself. But I don't even know how to word it properly. It's just sometimes things come up, people's egos get bruised, and people like me have to pay for it. I'm referring to the 9-week DDoS from last summer, and now I'm just trying to do a bunch of safeguards to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again. Um, Unfortunately, YouTube is a very dog eat dog world, so I gotta try to keep everything as secure as I can. But in doing that, it takes away time from operations and keeping things orderly. So I do apologize to all of you for the past week. Ops were very light. To make up for that, we'll be doing something today. I've got Halo planned for Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday is going to be a joint op with the BT guys again for the Space Marine stuff, mainly because since we're doing a second iteration of Last Ship, I need at least a week to make that new mission file on St. George Island. Making Florida Keys took me 3 days between just putting all the areas down, putting some custom pieces of intel just to make it a one-off. But that mission, I mean, we can go for about 3 hours with everything that goes on
Stress
that
is
mission.
bad for
So,
your health.
1 second.
Squeeze some flowers to relax LCPL heart.
I'll also take care of sub requests from the stream at the end, or at least shout outs for that. And if they come up, I'll just briefly pause to let them play out so they don't interfere with what I'm saying over the recording. But anyway, after that, we'll be having a bit of a return to normalcy between ops on Monday and Wednesday. And then Saturdays, mine have freed up a bit more. So I will be working on doing operations on Saturday when I can, mainly focusing on maybe 1 or 2 additional Halo ops, probably 1 at most for the weekend, and then going into the operations that were voted for, which we'll get to in a second, as well as a few that I didn't have the time to run, like the Next Impossible op, and a few other things that I have teased, which we'll get to later in this conversation. All right, with that out of the way, again, thank you for sticking by me, and I hope you enjoy your time here, as I've always said. So, next 4 weeks, the operations that won, I already mentioned Starship Trooper. Last Ship. Starship Trooper was the other thing that won. 40K technically beat it out, but as I discussed in the previous community town hall, I am doing polls in the following way. I'm only regarding the votes from people that actively play in the operations. How I define activity is I just recognize your name as someone I can literally put the name of in the slotting channel, and then, your name will come up, and if it's within 3 to 6 months, I'll go, okay, yeah, your poll counts. But if it's someone that has never played here or just chats here, I don't really care for their feedback, because those polls are designed for people that actively play to have a say, and it wouldn't be fair to those that actively played if just my viewership could control what they play. That defeats the entire purpose of the poll, in my opinion. So after rerunning the Starship Trooper and 40K numbers, 40K did not, in fact, take second place. It took third or fourth. And then I decided, based on the weekends, the third topic that won was the random modern day era ops like Rooftop Koreans, which I thought was a fun operation to do. Definitely don't want to do something like that every weekend, though, because it stepped on some people's toes here and there. There were some issues with it, but something fun like that at least once every few weeks I think is good. But there'll be varied operations based off of other things I can find that will be running on the weekends till let's see, what month is it? January, February, March, April, May. So till next June when we'll rerun the poll. So I'll see what I can come up with on those Saturdays. A quick other note, which I'm not sure I had in this list, but this came up recently, and I want to bring it up because it's tied to slotting. There is going to be a new way I'm doing slotting for operations in the sense of if people put in unslot requests, I'm not going to check those off. Instead, I am just going to remove your name, delete your unslot request, and delete your original request. And the reason for that is because I have to be, or I like to be secure with our TeamSpeak as best I can and cycle through various different TeamSpeaks because I'm paranoid over, again, what happened last summer with DDoSing. Um, it kind of messes with me on remembering who slotted and who unslotted because the unslot request comes after. So I've tried going in reverse order and doing a bunch of ways, but I still end up sending the message to people that then reply and say they unslotted. So rather than dealing with it, I'm just going to delete that message and then have my list of people, shoot them the message, and then go forward. And what that also helps me with is if I'm keeping track of people that have slotted for operations, now that since they didn't play because they unslotted, that request won't come up and I won't have to dig for an unslot request. But, 3 to 6 months down the line, I'm not going to find that anyway. So that's just going to help with things. So if you unslot and then see your message disappear, that's why. But you'll look on the roster and see that you're gone. If you're not, just again, shoot another message and say, hey, this happened, yada yada. Another thing that came up with slotting was people slotting on other people's behalf. I do not mind if you do that. I just need to know ahead of time because if out of the blue someone slots three people, I then have to rely on that person that slotted those three people to give them the information for the team speak. And we tried that a few times, and they sometimes wouldn't give that information over. So then I'd have, 3 or 4 people missing, which thankfully we have reserves for a reason, but those people kind of get cheated out of a slot, and it just kind of bloats my whole process. So if you want a slot for 1 or 2 other people ahead of time because you're absolutely not going to be at your computer on your phone because you're busy, I get it. Let me know ahead of time so I can still DM you the information when I see that someone else slots for you, and then I can get that going. Um, but I, again, would prefer you to slot because it helps keep records for myself and it just keeps everything more orderly for that. But otherwise, that is that point. Upcoming operations and joint work. So I've already mentioned the Black Templar route. That's going to be next Wednesday. I'm going to be doing an operation with them every 2.5 weeks. I'm going to try to shoot for Sundays with them. But once in a while, I might use their Wednesday slot as a break from here, especially if, for example, in the last ship's case, I need the extra week to make that mission file because, again, I'm pretty much designing an open world scenario. So I have to have all the intel, the garrisons pre-made, a bunch of extra units if I want made, all of the CBRN zones spawned and tested. There's been new features I've also been adding on slowly. This one, for example, I've extended the Ace Carry and Load framework. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's going to be some items that you can pick up and bring back that affects the future of the campaign. Was experimenting with that with some boxes to move around, but then I expanded on it further by doing some digging. So as I gradually scope creep myself and add more features to this campaign, it's just going to need more and more time. I know we always joke about the 40 hours of testing, but especially for a campaign like this and all the custom features, I need to make sure it works well because I especially don't want a repeat of when I tried to start this campaign and the mission file wouldn't even boot properly, literally because of a big Chungus texture. And if you know the story, it's funny, but there was they had all these custom textures inside, and one was a custom uniform that literally turned you into Big Chungus. But for whatever reason, there was an error with it that was causing the mission file not to boot, even when I didn't have it placed on the map, and I didn't even know it existed until I sent the mission file to a buddy of mine to see what the issue actually was. And that's just another one in the Arma storybook for things that have randomly screwed up. But if you go boot that mod, you can actually open it in the editor. It's really funny. But regardless, for joint operations, back to what I was going for. I will be putting out information for that in Arma announcements, having a slotting procedure with it as well. The people that went to the last Black Templar op really enjoyed it. So if you want to play, again, I warn, it's a very big mod set, but it's very fast-paced Space Marine action. You get to feel like a god just murdering everything in your path until the melee troops arrive. That's a fun one. And then the other one I will be soon introducing is every 2 weeks. I'm now doing work with Karmacut, who's another YouTuber, started with Squad, now he's getting into Arma. They're doing some really heavy milsim roleplay style operations. I would say the heaviest I've ever seen, and they're looking for some people to act as a local civilian group that they can interact with because having realistic civilians in Arma is impossible without actors. Or possibly a third party force, maybe a little PvP or maybe a little PvE, depending on the ops. Examples being, again, I already mentioned the civilians. Second would be you're part of a Black Hawk Down crew that they're trying to rescue and you're trying to fight for your own, or you're the actual HVT they're trying to capture, and some of you are part of his guard. So your job will be to not kill them outright, but, give them a fair fight while the HVT tries to escape, and they seem to like that stuff. I'll be making a probably in a week network of 2 channels to specifically go over that information. If people are interested, that'll be Saturdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time bi-weekly. If there's any other joint work that comes up, I know Rubik's has a few things with Ignis he's cooking up. If it comes to term where I will be invited and allowed to bring a group, I will let you guys know. Furthermore, with other things I'll talk about, such as MCO, other stuff I do with the SOG devs in terms of a little miniaturized version of MCO in there, or anything else I do where I can bring in a group of people, I will be prioritizing here over TSB, mainly because one, I don't really want to represent TSB anymore because of my own things that happened with them that I talked about in the last community meeting. But two, the last group of people that went in there for the SOGOP, I was told not to bring them back. So, yeah. Regardless with that, at least with here, I have more control over who I can bring and who I can't compared to TSB. But it's, I don't want to end up in another situation like that because that was a little awkward for everyone around. Regardless, next note, quick note about the rules of this community. So a few weeks ago, there was a small incident where some people were saying some very transphobic and homophobic things in op, and I want to just clear up the line because some people don't seem to see where the line is. In terms of racist, sexist, and all that stuff, if it's in a meme or a joke, as long as it's not overtly offensive, that's fine. We can all take a laugh here. We're all supposed to be adults here. As long as you're not trying to single anyone out specifically. But if you are going to say stuff like that in operation and someone records you and sends it to me, or I catch you saying that, that's where I give you the boot. Because at that point, that's tied to my community. That is literally on my channel recorded somewhere. And I am forced to take action because if I don't, someone can then report me on YouTube or Twitch. And then I get in trouble. And then this is my business and I have to treat it as such. So again, memes are fine, but don't let me catch you saying shit like that, especially if you're calling someone out and saying those things. Then I have to deal with you accordingly, and I don't have any tolerance. So please don't make me be the bad guy there because I unfortunately have to at that point. Next thing, so other special operations. I already mentioned I want to run Impossible Op ASAP on a weekend. We'll probably see that in 2 or 3 Saturdays from now, depending on my schedule. The T5 put up or shut up. I'm having a bit of trouble getting some of those guys organized, so I don't think it's going to be able to happen, unfortunately. It was a nice idea. I know it won in one of the polls by a landslide, but I don't think I'm going to be able to bring back the old guard for something like that, so I apologize. The other two special things I do that are on smaller side scale, IED course and another Toyota War. IED course, for those who don't know, it's basically literally just a maze filled with IEDs. It's doable, but it's incredibly difficult and you have to pay attention. And then towards the end, I also put in some really BS IEDs that you can only really figure out if you're watching other people do the course. But it's meant to just be a laugh and to see who can actually luckily make it at the end. And then at the end, I let everyone run it at the same time and I just add more. So if you'd be interested in that, I'll probably put a poll up soon for that concept. And then Toyota War is basically if you have any experience making custom compositions, I let people submit their own custom compositions. I make a racetrack course and have a bunch of hostile units in the way, and you're basically trying to race to the end before anyone else can make it. And hopefully you won't get blown to smithereens. That one's also a pretty fun one. Again, I will bring it up in a poll sometime soon. Oh, I did have a note about the brief. I just completely forgot. Another thing I want to mention, though, regarding the poll system is based off of the fact that I've, in the past for the polls, I've always thought of the idea of if something wins, I give it a break to cycle everything out. So when Vietnam won the first poll when we started doing ops here, I didn't offer Vietnam again for 2 months. But because of how overwhelming the last ship campaign was in terms of its demand to come back, I broke that rule to just offer it again. And it, again, won by a landslide. So, what I'm going to do now is for every monthly poll, I am just going to keep everything on the list as is, which might mean it goes to 2 posts worth of information because you can only put so many emotes on a post. Since we do emote polls here, because in my opinion, it's the most secure compared to IP polls that can be spoofed and whatnot, because I've had to deal with that issue in the past. Um, we'll probably just allow for everything. One concern I have, though, is if something wins multiple months and it starts to grow stale, I will put a note up to say, hey, I'm just not going to offer this month because I want to do something else. Either, again, because I notice slotting or attendance drops down from it, or I just can't be bothered to keep doing it because it's just too taxing on me to keep it up. So with that out of the way, that's just how polls are going to work now. So the next poll you'll probably see in 2 posts. So another next point, the return of MCOs. I'm going to start that up this weekend in terms of drafting things up. I'm going to make it a Vietnam MCO because that's A, what won the latest poll before I dropped out of the project, and B, that just always seems to be what's the go-to, and that is one of my favorite things to do. So what better to kick it off again, because that's how MCO originally started, was a nice Vietnam operation. And I will draft something up for that. It's going to be 60 slots. I'm going to probably run it, I want to say, in the beginning to mid June. I will be selecting a date this weekend, putting an announcement on MCO. I'll be reaching out to community leaders to see who's still interested, and then redoing those slots. And then my goal is to run an MCO at the moment every 2 months. And then depending on demand, we'll either make it to 1 month or I'll keep it at the 2 month mark. Again, just because those operations, when the concept started, they were what took me the longest time, but comparing it to something like the last ship we're doing right now, the dev time is pretty much the same. It's just more bookkeeping work with all of the community players rather than a lot of dev and coding work. Then again, it also depends on what I do. Like if I want to make a massive basing Ace Fortify script, then that involves a bit more with coding. But you get my point. The time I spend per ops these days is a lot greater than 1 or 2, more so 2 years ago. But that's because I was still in college in the day and I had to focus my time elsewhere. But now that I live in a home with Bloodwayne, I've got more time to focus on those projects. So we'll no reason not to bring the project back. It's just been balancing everything out over the past 6 months. So I'll have more information about MCO past the weekend, but this is just to say it is coming back. All right, brief note on DayZ with the new system and how it's been going. So DayZ, I've brought back to the channel mainly because, one, it gives me some great variation from Arma. Two, it allows people to mess with me with the sound bites and allows me to get some additional income, which is helpful because it prevents other projects that I didn't want to bring in but might need to for the sake of revenue, like commission jobs and Patreon stuff, which we'll talk about later. And three, I guess I'm a masochist. I don't know. It's funny to get a little scared here and there rather than being in a Zeus interface all day. So with all of that, the new system has basically been, I've wanted to do a similar system to the poll system we have in the Arma 3 stuff, where I let the community kind of pick which server we're going to go on. That's kind of dissolved for the moment because the server that won was a stalker server that within the first week of starting to play on it, it completely crashed itself and is now working on a new version of itself. So I'm going to restart that poll project probably within 3 weeks after they have their new version come out, and then we'll go back in the cycle system. So right now, I'm just considering this as a time where everyone's getting their feet wet with DayZ again and just getting it solidified back with the channel. I've also had people ask me if there's going to be any DayZ content on YouTube. That is probably only going to be stuck to VODs because of how YouTube now works. I will talk about that later. But I am limited in what I can upload on the main channel, so just can't be bothered with any DayZ content at the moment, except maybe a clip here or there. But we'll see how the DayZ system works. Again, trying to keep everyone on a single server, but everyone's free to go wherever. I'm going to keep trying to find servers to let us vote for, to raid for
Send
basically
in
a
Goat
month.
Team
1 second.
6 now.
And we'll be going from there. All right. Otherwise, speaking of the YouTube channels, so I've been doing a lot of work to basically get everything back up to snuff. I was taking a break with the PvP Shenanigans channel because I was testing a lot of algorithm stuff with the main channel because those two channels' algorithms are hand in hand. I now know why that's the case, and again, that's between me and my moderators because some people out there are jerks. But I finally found a system that'll work for it, and I greatly underestimated the front log I actually had on that channel. So that channel is front logged up to August right now. And then after the front log ends, I'm going to practically be releasing one video a week of just a highlight compilation and linking the VODs they're from in the channel because releasing anything more just kills its algorithm. Main channel is going to be uploading Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday being a short or a small clip, Saturday being an edited 8 to 10 minute video, and Sunday being another shorter clip. That's just what the algorithm likes, and that's what I'm going to stick with. I've just been in the process of testing, uploading 3 or 4 days, and after this weekend, I will finalize that track. VOD channel will still be uploading as things come up. I caught up with it, I want to say 2 days ago, and only had like one video to upload, but that quickly changes because Monday and Tuesdays we don't do much compared to Thursday, Friday, where I'm streaming 3 or 4 times that day. So uploading only twice a day, it eventually balances itself out. But I'll be doing my best to keep all of that scheduled. Main channel, by the way, is already front logged to 2 months though, because we've practically gone from uploading every day
Send in
to
Goat
one
Team
second.
6 now.
Ha 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 LCPL goat LCPL angry shifty close one working prime barb R39 rage barb R39
I
money
should
barb
really mute the
R39
stream
ha.
sub messages when I do this. Now that I think about it, I think I'll do that for next time. Though it is funny to get cut off by random things people put in. The main channel has been front logged to I want to say 2 months now because again uploading once a day or twice a day now to only 2 or 3 times a week is well, it gives you an instant front log and things like that. Otherwise, quick note on Checkpoint RP and a Pay for Pain. They are on the calendar. I will admit I don't have the exact dates on me right now. I have them posted somewhere in this Discord. But again, Checkpoint RP is going to be every 3 to 4 months, and Pay for Pain every 6 months. Just because I like doing Pay for Pain, sure, but I want to keep it special. So doing it, twice a year at most, I think is a fair middle ground for that. And Checkpoint RP, I know people like that, but they are tedious to set up, and I have to think of every possible thing to test it out because otherwise players quickly abuse something that I neglect. There is also a Checkpoint RP being run by a few buddies of mine from a 40k unit. I think it's going to be like a 40k fantasy Checkpoint RP. So when I have more information about that, I will let you guys know. They're still selecting a date though, which might not be for another month to month and a half. But when I have more information about that, I will let you guys know. And since I'm bringing people, I'm going to make sure it's properly vetted and tested because, again, Checkpoint RPs need to be that way. Otherwise, it quickly devolves into metagaming. Now, quick note about what I talked about last community town hall with letting other people Zeus. Um, Still thinking about it in terms of when things come up. My end goal with this community is to, again, open the reins to let 1 or 2 trusted people take it. However, there has been something that has come up over the past 45 days that I see as a really good opportunity, and he's actually in the channel right now. His name is Krosk. He is probably, if not the best mission maker I have ever seen across my 7 years of doing Arma 3 stuff. He works a project called Project Tension, which he recently dissolved because of some IRL things. I don't know the full story there, but I have basically offered to him if he ever wants to restart that project, he can do it here. That was mainly done on Saturday nights. The main, excuse me, Project Tension stuff was usually done every 2 to 3 weeks, and then he'd run side ops. How I would set that up with him is since I also do Karma Cut stuff bi-weekly on an off week for that. Sorry about that. I would ask him to do something once a month here, and that would be a trial period just to see how other people gravitate towards other Zeuses. Um, and it's simply because this man's work is light years ahead of mine. He has his own mod framework. He does his own custom sound design. He has custom intro and outro videos. His AOs are very well made. He'll literally build giant custom underground areas that player bases can sometimes get through in 30 minutes at most, but that radiation scripting, like everything you could possibly think of. If you haven't already, I would highly recommend you go look up a Project Tension map. This guy literally built a full on EVA system, which you could basically just float around space and a giant asteroid map. And we just spent the entire mission mining things and taking on outposts with garrisoned AI. Like, this stuff will blow your freaking mind. So if he ever wants to work here, he has priority because of what he can do. And I swear to God, guys, it is some of the best stuff you will ever play. Um, but in the event he doesn't want to, I will still work to making that door open. But again, I'm going to be very defensive about who I give that priority to because that's me basically handing you a lot of trust. And this is my baby right now. So I'm going to be very defensive about it because my business is pretty much tied to here at this point. But in the event that works out, I will definitely spearhead potentially getting one or two other people in on the Zeusing side of things. And we'll just have to tie it with the polls that are going on, as well as, gonna be honest, it's also gonna be a bit of a popularity contest because a popularity contest means that you at least have a dedicated player base that's gonna play your stuff. So I will be paying attention to things like that going forward. And I know that also opens the door for a few other negative things, but you're going to have to trust me to kind of play this all by ear and see how it goes. But I wanted to let you know how that thing's been moving forward. And as I said with the last community town hall, again, it's in the back of my mind because I know some of you want the opportunity. And right now I'm just focusing on growing the player base. But again, other things have come up and I might be able to have some really cool stuff for us here. Now, final thing, brief note about Patreon. Because we brought DayZ back and because YouTube's algorithm, I finally figured out how things are working and I'm able to make a decent chunk of money on there again. Patreon isn't a priority at the moment. I'm still going to probably review a system by the end of the summer to give certain perks for people that want priority on operations and whatnot. I'm going to be very limited with them, but it's not a priority for me to get done right now because the only reason I would need to do that is if I was having a financial issue, which we'll admit taxes were a bit close this year, but that's also because being a first time house owner and coordinating all that stuff for the tax season was it meant all the money had to go to parts of the house instead of saving up for taxes. So that's out of the way and things should be fine now and I shouldn't have to deal with that issue again. But we'll I want to say probably in July's, maybe August's town hall meeting, I will actually bring up Patreon again to go over the system. But again, don't need to go over it now because I said in the last town hall it would depend on how finances were going if I would even consider going over it between then and the next few months. So that's something we don't have to deal with. So that concludes everything I have for this town hall meeting. Kept it at 30 minutes. Nice. If anyone has any questions, how I'll be doing it is if you go into the speaking channel we're in, you'll see there's a chat bubble when you hover over Town Hall. You can click that. I dashed out the chat because of the previous Town Hall meeting back on the 1st of April. Was that? But if you have a question, feel free to pop it in there. And then after I've satisfied all questions in there, I will go to my stream chat and answer questions in there. And if anyone on stream has a question, feel free to have it on a text document and ask when I call that out. But I see someone is typing in the chat. Late join. What was that about MCOs, if anything? TLDR, I'm going to start up MCO again. We're going to run one probably in the next 20 to 30 days. It's going to become a bi-monthly project, and I will be focusing this weekend on setting up a timeline for it. It's going to be a Vietnam mission to kick things off, but that is pretty much it in terms of MCO. I'll wait for your reply. Yep, no problem. All right, I don't see anyone else typing in chat. I know this is a smaller town hall meeting because it's Mother's Day weekend. I see Kiri typing, so one moment. But if you are on the stream, feel free to type in your questions now. I appreciate it, Kiri. Hope everything's going well with Friday Night Fights. All right, looking on everything else, I don't see anything in OBS. What about co-Zeusing? So I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like having co-Zeuses if it's outside of training a Zeus. The main issue with it is having two Zeuses directly doing things at the same time is really difficult to communicate and coordinate while you're both focusing on the player base itself and focusing on a Twitch chat. So it's a little too taxing for me to constantly have a Zeus to manage with, not manage with, work with. Um, and it's just something I don't really do outside of commission jobs, simply because it's just too much for me to handle. And I don't like having anything take away from me focusing on the player base primarily and my chat secondarily. So I don't really have any plans to do that. Now, if I need to train up a Zeus in my community to offset workload, which is a potential for how the whole Zeus system is going to work, then by all means, for at least 2 or 3 operations, I will have a co-Zeus as someone I am training to basically break down everything I know as quickly as I can to get everything sorted. But in terms of having co-Zeuses for my day-to-day stuff, I'm not comfortable with having that at a bit, so... Next question from chat. Do I have time after the meeting? Hear what happened? Yeah. So anything that I mentioned, both here or anything, feel free to DM me on Discord. I don't mind giving anyone on the side like the full TLDR of anything. It's just, especially with now that I know a few things that I mentioned at the beginning of this stream, I need to not publicly talk about a few things because there's people with fragile egos out there that like DDoSing communities. So, I have a question. I don't have any DLCs, but I want to join one of your ops. Will I be able to do so? Um, the only things I can think of at that point is once in a while we will use Tanoa as a map. We used it for Rooftop Koreans recently, which required Apex DLC. However, I don't really use global mobilization or whatever that other RHS ripoff CDLC is that I like to call it. We do once in a while use SOG Prairie Fire stuff though, especially if we do a Vietnam rotation. That will be a requirement, but I mean the last ship right now that doesn't need any CDLC except for contact DLC. I think is a dependency needed to use the CBRN
Send
stuff, but I
in
could be
Goat
wrong.
Team
Someone can correct me with
6
that.
now.
But
Imagine not being a
otherwise, one second.
god.
But otherwise, that is really it. I'm not sure. I can't remember if Contact was released as a free update, and then the map and the campaign were the actual DLC components. But it's hard to remember with that. Otherwise, I think that is all I see in chat. Gonna go back to Discord. Don't see anything in there. All right, so operation will be in 90 minutes for the last ship part 4. It's a really, really fun op. There's a lot of cool things I have put in it. So I'll see some of you there. If not, enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Happy Mother's Day, depending on where you are in the world. Mine's tomorrow, but for some people it's today. And next town hall meeting will be next month in the middle of the month. And when we get close to the date, I will put out a poll again. Hopefully, stick to the poll and not get interrupted by IRL stuff to move it. So thank you. I'm going to mute myself, take care of a few sub requests on stream. Feel free to DM me on Discord if you have any further questions here. All right, muted on there. I want to give a quick shout out to the following people: Wolves for the 71 month resub. You're a bro, dude. Thank you for all the work you've done moderating for my community for, God, 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, 72, nearly 6 years now. Oh. Sir Aetherius, I believe I said that right. If I didn't, I apologize. Thanks for the Twitch Prime sub. Dutch Eagle, thanks for the 39-month resub. Hope you keep supporting myself and Barbarian and Moxie. Welcome back to sub jail. I wonder who gave you that one. Unless you did it yourself, who knows? But I appreciate everything, guys, and yeah, it's a 6-month gift subscription from Modaddict. All right, there it is. Yeah, you're on month 3, so you're still stuck in sub hell. Ah, man, that's funny. But otherwise, if you missed the town hall meeting, it's fine. I'll be uploading it tomorrow morning. And if you have any questions,
Send
comments,
in
concerns
Goat
you want
Team
to pass to me,
6 now.
feel free to do so in my DMs. I always have an open door policy, and I don't mind talking with you. I literally had I explained something to someone just before FNF and was a little late to the FNF stream because of that. But again, I don't mind anyone that reaches out. But anyway, we're gonna have an op in about an hour and a half. That's gonna be Last Ship Part 4, and then we have Karma Cuts operation tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then sometime in between those, I have a quick commission thing to do to walk someone through a Zeusing 101 lecture, and then I'll also find some time to play DayZ. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Go operate operationally. Enjoy the rest of your day or night. Hopefully, I'll see you in 90 minutes for Last Ship Part 4. Otherwise, cheers and have a good one. And shut up, Broadshore. No, I don't.